Coming up, this is what the Philadelphia Eagles must do in order to win their 11th game in a row, take down the Washington Commanders, and if they do that on the road, they will win the NFC East. First, let's set the foundation and take a look at how the Commanders stack up and how Philadelphia stacks up on both sides of the football. The Commanders' offense statistically this year, top 10 unit all across the board. 6th scoring offense in the NFL at 28.3 points per game. 5th in yards picked up per matchup at 373.9. They're 9th in yards per play at 5.8. 6th on third downs. Number 7 in the red zone, meaning they're scoring a touchdown when they get inside the 20 at a 60% clip. They're explosive. They've been efficient. They've been a really good offensive unit, all things considered, with a rookie quarterback under center and in the shotgun. That's a credit to Cliff Kingsbury for the work he's been able to do with the inexperienced quarterback in Jayden Daniels. Defensively, they have some talent, but they're a little bit thin as far as depth, and that secondary has really struggled this year, although Lattimore is back for Washington. He made a season debut last week, 16th in points per game given up at 22.5, 11th in yards per game, 16th in yards per play, 22nd on third downs, and 29th in the red zone. So offensively, the Commanders doing a good job of keeping drives going and converting on third downs, and then capitalizing in the red zone. Defensively, though, struggling to get off the field and struggling to keep teams out of the paint. As for how the Eagles stack up, 8th scoring offense in the league at 26.4. That's okay when you have the number 1 scoring defense in the NFL at 17.6. Elsewhere offensively, the Birds 6th in yards per game at 373.2, 11th in yards per play at 5.7, 7th on third downs. They've gotten better in that category over the last several weeks. The same can be said for their red zone efficiency. They're up to 58.1%. That's 11th. And look at Vic Fangio's defense. 1st in points per game. 1st in yards per game, under 276. 1st in yards per play at 4.7. Number 2 on third downs. Number 4 in the red zone. The turnaround from last year to this year, unbelievable. If there was a Coordinator of the Year award, it would definitely go to Vic Fangio. And with that, that leads me into this, my keys to the game for Philadelphia. This might sound corny, it might sound cliche, but sometimes it comes down to simplicity. What the Eagles have to do is take care of business. They have to avoid the trap game because the mission is simple. The Eagles beat Washington. They win the NFC East, their 2nd divisional championship in 3 years. They've really run this division since the year 2000. It's been great for me growing up watching this Eagles squad led by Jeffrey Lurie, Howie Roseman. And if the Eagles win the division, that means they host at least one playoff game. But of course, they're setting their sights to trying to get that number 1 seed and home field advantage coming through Lincoln Financial Field in South Philadelphia. This is the easiest pathway in order for them to achieve that. Number 1, they take care of business. They win out on the road against Washington, at home against Dallas, at home against New York. They will then need the Lions to lose at least one game. The Lions on the road against Chicago, at San Francisco, home against Minnesota. The Vikings need to lose at least one game as well. They beat the Chicago Bears on Monday night. Then they are on the road against Seattle, at home against Green Bay, and then at Detroit. So both Detroit and Minnesota, much more difficult schedules as compared to Philadelphia here. This division, it is Philadelphia's to win. But the path to home field advantage is easiest by winning out. That has to start against Washington. And how do you avoid a trap game? Continue to play the way that you've been playing. Really good on offense, elite on defense. You play clean. You don't cough it up. You don't play sloppy, and you play up to your standard. We have also witnessed some awesome Eagles fan environments. And I expect that to be the case with Eagles fans taking over the joint in the DMV on Sunday. And when the Eagles are on the road against Washington, it just adds a little bit of juice to the game because there's so much midnight green and Kelly green all throughout that stadium. Key to the game number 2, continue to stay balanced on the offensive side of the football. We finally saw that against Pittsburgh. What did it result in? 27 points against one of the league's best defenses and a team in Pittsburgh that is a Super Bowl contender. The Eagles as a squad are their most dangerous and most difficult to beat when they are a balanced football team. And that was made possible against Pittsburgh because the pass game came alive, led by Jalen Hurts. His best game throwing since probably the 2022 season, all things considered, with how good he was in all facets. Long ball, short intermediate, accurate, decisive with his reads, money on third downs. The Eagles were also great on fourth downs. On the day, Hurts 25 at 32, 290 yards, 9.1 yards per completion, 3 total touchdowns, no picks. 2 of those tutties coming through the air. 1 to A.J. Brown, 1 to Devontae Smith, and a quarterback rating, or a passer rating, of 125.3. And just imagine this, right? You're game planning against Philadelphia, and you're a defensive coordinator, and you're saying, okay, at the point of attack, we're going to have a difficult time. Our work is going to be cut out for us because the Eagles' offensive line is elite. Then you try to stop Saquon Barkley. Well, the Eagles against the Steelers proved if you stop our run game, then the defense has to worry about A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. And when Jalen Hurts is playing like that and he's playing confident and the pass game is humming, you have that run-pass clicking with the Eagles' defense being what it is. That's why Philadelphia right now is looked at as a Super Bowl threat. And that's why, in my opinion, they're the most all-around team in football right now because they are playing great ball, offense, defense, special teams, and they're just complete with a lot of talent and really good coaching. Nick Sirianni, Vic Fangio, and Kellen Moore. Key to the game number 3, there will be opportunities for running success on the ground for Philadelphia. So while it's important to stay balanced offensively, you never want to go away from your strengths as a football unit. And a lot of people have asked me, Chase, how close is Saquon Barkley to breaking Eric Dickerson's record for the most rushing yards in a single season? He is under pace right now because he's cooled off a little bit since that Rams game. But right now, he still has an opportunity to set that record. He's already taken down LaShawn McCoy for the most rushing yards in a single season in franchise history. But Eric Dickerson for the Rams back in 1984 had 2,105 rushing yards in 16 games. Saquon will have 17 games to do that if he's able to stay healthy, so maybe a little bit of an asterisk there. Barkley right now through 14 games, 285 carries, 1,688 yards. His carries and rushing yards still leads the NFL, 5.9 yards per carry, 11 touchdowns, and then his rushing yards per game at 120.6 also lead the National Football League. And this Commanders team against the run, it has been a leaky valve for Washington this season. Rush play percentage at 47.2%. That's 28th. So teams actually like to air it out a lot against Washington because of that bad secondary. But yards per carry, 4.8, 28th among 32 teams. Rushes per game, 27.8. The Eagles run it about 36, 37 times per game on average. Rushing yards per game, Commanders rank 25th at 132.1. And then rushing touchdowns given up, 0.9. That's 15th. But with the brotherly shove and with Saquon Barkley, the Eagles average a lot of rushing touchdowns per game. They've been around 2 all year. Key to the game number 4, A.J. Brown against Marshawn Lattimore. This was not a matchup that we got to see in the previous matchup between these two teams in middle November because Marshawn Lattimore did not play. Missed a lot of time with that hamstring injury, a marquee trade deadline acquisition for this Washington team, which had to make a move because they've been bad in that secondary and they just let go of Emmanuel Forbes a couple of weeks ago. And Lattimore made his Commanders debut on Sunday in that skinny win over New Orleans. He played 49 of 51 snaps on the road. He was not targeted at all. He didn't appear on the stat sheet. When you are a running back, quarterback, wide receiver, usually that's not good if you're not on the stat sheet, right? In fact, it's always not good. When you are a corner and you're not on the stat sheet, that's a good thing. If you're not getting targeted, that means that you're blanketing that wide receiver. And if you don't have any stats, that means that you held it down on the outside all throughout the course of that ball game. And with Lattimore back, it allowed the Commanders to have their best defensive personnel in the secondary, and their alignment worked to their advantage. Noah Igbenogany, he was in the slot. The rookie Mike Sainristil, still, who was really good against Philadelphia in that previous matchup, was on the outside. And Mike Sainristil, still, Marshawn Lattimore on the outside, that is a very solid cornerback tandem for this Commanders defense. Key to the game number 5. Eagles are going to have disciplined pass rush lanes given the mobility of Jayden Daniels. We saw on that 4th down, he tried to get to the outside. The Eagles were so disciplined there, not letting him get to the outside. They had that huge 4th down stop, which really changed the game back in November. And then take away sideline throws. If you look at Jayden Daniels' throwing chart, loves to target the boundary. This is something that I talked about in the previous matchup. This is something that Bill Belichick had noted too when he was not a head coach for North Carolina, and he was doing a lot of media work and film study on Jayden Daniels. He loves to throw toward the sideline. And with the way that the Eagles secondary has been playing, they've been able to limit those sideline throws. That is something that Russell Wilson does so well and has done so well throughout his career. Eagles didn't give up explosive plays in the pass game against Russ in general, but also down that sideline. Daniels, what Cliff Kingsbury likes to do, get the ball out of his hands very quickly so that he can be accurate, have easy throws to complete, and that's why he's completing 70.5% of his passes, and he's thrown for more than 3,000 yards, 17 touchdowns, 6 picks. Of course, Terry McLaurin, the number 1 for that Commanders team. Look out for him. After he got shut down by Quinyon Mitchell, he ran 25 routes back in November. 20 of them were matched up against Quinyon Mitchell. Quinyon Mitchell didn't give up a catch. He was phenomenal in that game. So predict the score. Eagles Commanders coming up on Sunday as the Birds hit the road once again. My prediction, I think the Eagles keep this train rolling. I think they win their 11th straight game. The offense puts up 30. The defense plays very well. Commanders get another garbage time touchdown. 30-20 is my final score.